gonna do our moment of silence and pledge of allegiance, so if everybody will stand and we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you for that. We've got Aiden Bacon gonna come do the pledge of allegiance for us, lead us.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Public input.
We have two.
Alrighty.
Our first one is Ms. Pam Oakes from Jefferson City, speaking about Allied.
Before you get going,
Yes, sir.
she's probably gonna go over the 3 minutes, so I told her she'd be alright.
Just let it run.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna keep it real concise. I even wrote it out so I didn't ramble, didn't do, and could stay right to the point. But I do have two important things I'd like to mention, so I just want to be able to do that real fast. So I am speaking about Allied, and the reason I feel like we need to keep that in our school systems. A few years ago, we had a student in our building who had displayed deeply troubling behaviors. He was emotionally unstable, defiant, often aggressive. He had drawings that depicted violent, sometimes sexually inappropriate content. From the start, it was clear this child was in crisis. As the year progressed, his instability intensified. He began expressing thoughts of self-harm. We responded quickly, connecting him with multiple support systems, including online mental health services, our school counselor, and most critically, our Allied counselor, who built a consistent, trusting relationship with him. Eventually, his statements shifted from harming himself to harming others. He began describing fantasies of violence, hurting or even killing students. At first, he named no names, but the language was disturbing and carefully documented. Near the end of the year, during a session with his Allied counselor, it escalated. He identified targets: our principal, 3 students, and myself. What happened next changed everything. The Allied counselor immediately followed protocol, bringing him to the principal. Our school counselor and SRO were called in. A statement was taken. He had names, he had intent, and this time he had a plan. He was arrested that day, just 10 years old. He was handcuffed and taken from our building in a police car. A search of his home revealed that he had a box of machetes underneath his bed. He had talked about guns. He had never talked about guns. He had only talked about knives. He was ready. And had it not been intercepted that day by the quick thinking of the Allied counselor, the support of our school team, and law enforcement's swift response, our school could have faced a tragedy. That summer, as I was walking out of Walmart with my daughter, that same student approached me. And he said, as he came up to me, I notified my daughter and said, "This is the student. Just be alert. I'm not sure what's going to happen." And he came up and he said, "Hey, Miss Oakes, I want you to know I'm getting the help that I need, and I'm doing okay." And then he told me, "Have a great summer," and he went on his way. That situation was handled so effectively that our principal, after that, began to have to go and speak sometimes at school safety seminars, talking about how our plan wasn't just written, but it was executed. It was executed professionally and as it should have been. No one was harmed that day. Had that been changed, our principal would probably not have obviously been able to be still with us, was named Principal of the Year this year for the year of 2025. She's able to watch her son graduate this year and attend college. She's celebrating 20 years of marriage today, but is in this building at this meeting because it's that important. Had it not happened, I wouldn't have been honored enough to be the building leader, to be the building teacher of the year and the district-wide teacher of the year. I get to watch my son open up his own business and build a home, watch my daughter become a university art professor, and my grandson grow, and my other son thrive. Had these things not been intercepted, I would have missed these milestones, and they are not small, and my principal would have missed them as well, if not 3 students who possibly could have lost their lives. Our Allied counseling services don't just support a child in crisis, they prevent and preserve future lives. Then I did have if I could be permitted, sorry about our time, if I could be permitted, I had a great-grandmother asked me to share her story because she's at a function that we're having at school and she's not able to be here this evening. But she had her grandson, he is a fourth grade student at our school and he's facing significant challenges, physical, emotionally, and socially. He refuses to do things like brush his teeth, overwhelmed by the texture and the sensation. But even more concerning, as a fourth grader, he's unable to use the toilet or have bowel movements. He refuses to do that at school. That's something he won't do. He has requested to have a diaper. He will even delay this behavior until he gets home, puts on a diaper, and has his, not grandmother, great-grandmother, who is his primary caregiver, change his diaper. He is emotionally regulated and deeply affected. His regulation is. He experiences frequent tantrums, not only developmentally typical for his age. He's displayed aggressive behaviors, including hitting, throwing objects, throwing himself on the floor, and at times he expresses thoughts of self-harm and suicide. His great-grandmother did everything she could to find help, but with long wait lists of 6 to 9 months and insurance limitations, there are no realistic options for her in our community. Allied Counseling Service, enabled, already embedded into our school system, was her turning point, because Allied could begin work with him immediately, without wait lists, without financial barriers, without the stress of traveling, without having to sign him out of school. He received the support he desperately needed. And over time, he began to make steady progress. He learned to manage basic hygiene, gained emotional regulation skills, and overall well-being has transformed. Today, he is a happy, typical fourth grade student who is thriving in the classroom and with his peers. His great-grandmother wanted me to express what a life-changing experience has been and what an amazing student and well-behaved little boy he is because of our Allied support that is there. It not only helped him, it empowered his family and changed their lives. They also have been able to connect her to other outside resources for them to get him even further counseling beyond what he is receiving at our school. The story is not unique. Many students quietly carry the weight of emotional struggles or trauma. Allied Counseling Services meet them where they are, at school, every day, offering timeless, consistent care, making long-lasting relationships to help our students. I ask you, I implore you, that is a lot of lives that are touched, and in one school, please consider extending their contract and keeping them on. We desperately need mental health services in our school, and I thank you for allowing me to go over my time.
Something I did forget to say before we got started, this doesn't pertain to the person who spoke, but when you are addressing the board, you're addressing all of us, not just one person, or that's in policy. You're addressing everybody, so no need to like call out names or anything like that, so just keep that in mind. Who's our next person?
Our next person is Sarah Montgomery from White Pine, speaking about Allied.
All right.
Hi again. I'm Sarah Montgomery. I'm a mom to 2 girls at White Pine School. I'm also a CDC assistant at White Pine. I let you all know earlier this week about the impact Allied has had on my 12-year-old daughter, Adeline. Tonight, I'm going to read a letter from a fellow staff member and local foster care mother, Sharon Burney. Hello, my name is Sharon Burney. I am a parent and a staff member of the school system. I am writing to express my opinion about Allied behavioral health access being removed from the students in this county. I am sure you are aware that there is a significant number of students who need this service in our county. Students that live in abusive and neglectful homes, students that have incarcerated parents, drug-addicted parents, and students with mental illness. These are just a few of the adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, that our children live in. If you are not aware of the percentage of these students, then maybe a study should be done so that we are all aware of just how important mental health services are. I am begging you on behalf of our kids that we do not leave them in a position with lack of mental health care. Students who suffer from ACEs need to have a trusted adult in their life, someone they can talk to that is trained to help them through the challenges they face. We are living in a society that deems it imperative to offer these services at school. I understand it is hard to accept that we have such needs in our county. I know that we all want them to grow up to be happy, successful adults. As the adults responsible for them, let's make choices in favor of helping children navigate their lives by providing mental health services at school that they may never get otherwise. Thank you for your time, Sharon Burney. I'd also like to say that I want to encourage a few of you to visit our schools. Speak to a teacher, speak to an assistant, sit in on a class, go to lunch, talk to our students. It's clear to me just from being present at the last 2 meetings that some of you have no idea what our students are dealing with. You are supposed to be advocating for the students in our community. You cannot do that if you know nothing about them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was it. All right. So, that brings us down to any changes or anything to the agenda before we approve it. And a couple of board members have reached out and want to, on number 2, on the new business, take the mental health MOU off of new business this month. I think Dawn even mentioned it at the work session. They feel like there's a little bit more needs to be worked on it, so do we have unanimous consent to it?
I'll check.
All right then, so, and that means, you wanna put that in, well then, it means we'll have to vote here, so, Paul, do you wanna make a move? Like you said you wanted to do that.
Yes, I would do that. I make a motion to remove,
Could you please turn your mic on?
Yeah.
sorry. I make a motion to remove mental health MOU from the new business on the agenda.
Second? All right, so motion's been made and seconded to remove number 2, mental health MOU from the agenda tonight. Any discussion?
What is the reason for it?
The motion on the floor that I made in April 3rd was for the school board to work with the lawyer and the director of schools to develop an MOU. We were given a draft, which I have no problem working off of, but I had no input in what goes on, what isn't on there, along with any of the other board members that I'm aware of. And I think that we need to be able to have that ability. It is the motion, it's on the floor.
Why are we elected as school superintendent and trying to override his authority?
I'm not trying to override his authority. I made a motion that along with the director and a lawyer to develop an MOU.
Anything else? Yes.
Looking at the minutes from, I know we haven't approved them yet, but from last meeting, it even says there, for school board members along with director of schools and school board attorney to develop an MOU with mental health providers. And I don't remember being a part of that process.
All right, anything else? Yes, Mr. Gibb.
We received the MOU last Monday at our work session. I've seen it, read it a couple, 3 times. I have some questions that I'd like to clarify, so I think I would be for putting this off until the next meeting or whenever, until I can ask those questions and maybe provide some input.
All right, anything else? Yes,
Well, before I start last Monday, 3-hour marathon. If this MOU was not good enough last Monday, why didn't you change it then? You'd had it ready for this meeting. That's what a work session is for. The lawyer was there, we were there, you had it in your possession several days before the meeting, so we could have worked it out then with it. That would have been the time. I don't know when you think we're going to be together to do what you want. The director of school was there that night, the lawyer was there, we were there. Were there any changes made to that MOU? No. Now, I don't know where to go from here, except we cannot allow or hire, or whatever the correct word be, a mental health provider until we have an MOU. I agree with the MOU, we need one. I thought we had one, because we walked away from that meeting a week ago, Monday, and nobody objected to it. I did not remember hearing anybody say we needed to get together and work on this. We were there. So this is just putting off something that the public wants us as a school board to take care of. That's our job. They're very concerned about themselves and the students. So what kind of major changes, I mean, that lawyer should know what he's doing in comprising and putting together a legal document. And I think he worked off of documents, you can correct me on that, other documents from other schools, MOUs. He looked at the trend. So I say we had our chance on Monday to make any changes to this. The director was there, the attorney was there, we were all there, and nothing was done. I'm done.
All right. Anything else from second town?
So, the other night, I agree, there's a lot of good stuff in that MOU. One of the questions I brought up was, where's the background check that I'm concerned about? And I am concerned about our kids' safety of going into a locked door without somebody being background checked by themselves. I brought that up. I'm not presented with an MOU that shows it on there. Okay? I even brought it up a second time during that meeting. I still don't see the MOU with it on there. And there's some other questions that were brought up. No changes have been made to that MOU. So the one that we would be working off is that. But this was put on there. I have no idea when it was put on there what that agenda item even was. The last I remember from the meeting, we passed this motion, and Commissioner Martin said that he would like to talk more about this at the work session, would like it to have it put on the work session of the next meeting. Okay? I didn't see it on there. I just saw the MOU. I was under the assumption that we were going to talk about how we were going to develop this MOU. Okay? What we talked about at that last meeting, and we passed the motion, was on there was the mental health contract renewal. I didn't see it back on. In fact, I called Dr. Arnold the next day and didn't know what had happened to that, and then asked him if Commissioner Martin had taken it off, and he said no, that's what the HM or the MOU was. So, I remember just a couple months ago we talked about the JAS not being real specific, and I didn't think we needed. I would think that it would be by now pretty well detailed in our agendas of what we're talking about. We talked about the MOU the other night, but we never did finish talking about contract renewal, and I have a whole bunch of things. I actually requested a representative from Allied and Helen Ross McNabb to be here so that I had questions for them. Once we took a break after the lawyer spoke, I thought we were coming back to finish talking about it. Next thing I know, everybody got up and left. As far as I was concerned, the discussion wasn't over, but we moved on. So, like I said, I thought we were going to talk about the MOU and how we were going to develop it. And I'm not saying we all have to get together, but I think we need to figure out how we're going to make that happen. And I would be fine with, individually, I don't think we have to get together. I could send Dr. Arnold things that I'd like to see on there or taken off. You can, any of the commissioners. If you all want to meet, we can meet. But my motion is that we're to develop this with us. I had no say in what was on there. And I think it's a good document to work off of. I don't think we need to start from scratch. But the motion on the floor is to develop it with them And I'm not saying that we have to sit in one room together, or call a special call meeting for it. I'm willing to do that if y'all wanna do that. But I know that I have certain items that were not put on this MOU that I requested the other night, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
The director of school was there. The lawyer was there. They done what the motion asked. They presented us with a document. Then we had a meeting and we could have changed things. I didn't hear anybody ask, I want to add this, I want you to take this off. I never heard none of that. I would have been in favor of it. If we work on this MOU, it'll have to be done in public, or we cannot break the sunshine law. So a work session is a good time to do that. And we had one. I thought when we left Monday night, I don't know if you said everybody left. I think all the school board members were there when the dust settled, weren't we? Okay, so nobody left. We were all still there. And so after the meeting was over, I'm coming to this meeting tonight, assuming we had an MOU to vote on, because nobody changed anything. You had your chance, but apparently you want another chance, that's fine. Put it on the agenda for the next work session and do something. And then when it shows up on the agenda, then we vote on it. We vote tonight. Or you can vote, or you can make a motion on that MOU and then get it on the floor, and then you can amend it if you want to. Tonight. But anyway, I thought that since nobody changed anything on the document, that it was good to go.
I don't think if any changes had been made, we could have published that quick enough for this meeting. I mean, if somebody said, hey, I want to add this, I want to take this away, well, we've already put out this draft. And I don't think that it would have been suitable to just say, well, we got 3 days for people to look at it. But that's just me. Doug, second time.
Mr. Chairman, I think if we made any changes, we as a board would have had to vote to make those changes. We don't vote at work sessions. We vote.
Oh, sir, I know that. I know that.
All right, anyone else?
So we're gonna vote to make changes tonight. When are we gonna make the changes then? Answer my question.
I've already
We
spoken.
can't vote in work session. You're correct.
Let's
So,
stop.
the only way we can change that document, then according to you, is we have to vote on it during a work session, a business session. So it's on the agenda, has to put it on the floor and make some changes and vote on the amendments.
All right. Motion's on the floor to remove number 2, mental health MOU from the agenda tonight. All those in favor of the motion to remove mental health MOU from the agenda, raise your right hand. That'd be 4. All those opposed? 3 against. The motion passes to remove mental health MOU from the agenda. That means we go to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Doug made the motion to approve the agenda. Dawn has seconded. Discussion. All those in favor of approve the agenda, show by raising your right hand. 5, 4. All those opposed? 2 against. Motion passes to approve the agenda. All right, that brings down the consent agenda. There's a couple things on here, the minutes from last 2 meetings and the field trip for the JCHS FBLA. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Doug has made a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second?
I'll second.
Paul, second. Discussion? All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, show by raising your right hand. All those opposed? One against. 6 for, 1 against. Consent agenda passes. No committee reports, unfinished business, budget amendments, so that brings us then down to new business. First thing up is number 1, Fund 177, 2025-2026 budget approval. Is there a motion on this?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to amend the school district 25-26 budget to include the $12.5 million approved by the county commission to be placed in Fund 177 for the Jefferson Elementary School renovation.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
All seconds. I'll read it again. Move to amend the school district 25-26 budget to include the $12.5 million approved by the county commission to be placed in Fund 177 for the Jefferson Elementary School renovation. Is there any discussion on this? All right, so we'll vote. All those in favor of the move to amend the school district 25-26 budget to include the $12.5 million approved by the county commission to be placed in Fund 177 for Jefferson Elementary School renovation, show by raising your right hand. 7 for, 0 against. And next is the PECA committee members. You remember Dr. Arnold was going to pick some new folks to be on the committee to replace the school board. So I'm going to make a move to approve the revised PECA committee list as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dawn has seconded it. Any discussion on that?
Is this the revised one?
Yes, I looked
It
at
is.
one. Yeah.
The one that's in here, okay.
Anything else? All right, all those in favor of the move to approve the revised PECA committee list as presented, show by raising your right hand. It's 7 for, 0 against. That motion passes. And what's now number 3, Lewis Group contract termination.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Reed.
I move to terminate the professional service agreement dated 6/11/21 between Jefferson County Board of Education and the Lewis Group Architects by executing provisions 9.5 and 9.6 under Article 9 of said agreement.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
All has seconded. Is there any discussion on that?
I heard if he's not going first, he's got first choice.
Yeah, you got anything you want to say?
Yes, the 9.5 and 9.6 are the clauses that allow us to terminate the contract, which I believe now that we have decided and voted to renovate is in order, and that is under Article 9 of said agreement. I believe now that the funding has been approved and that we have voted to place that money in our budget, that it's in order to terminate this contract.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'm gonna vote for this motion, but I do want to say something about the Lewis Group. I've known those guys since 2010. They're straight up, they're A1, they do a good job. If it wasn't for the Lewis Group, we wouldn't have the Performing Arts Center at the high school. They did the research and made an excellent Performing Arts Center that's highly used, and other things throughout the county. They have also worked for the county itself, not just the school system. But to me personally, I guess, of course, they did a renovation of high school and Patriot Academy, but the jewel is the renovation of Piedmont. And that was an awesome job. I know the teachers and the principals, and they had to put up with a lot. And I was down there some, the Lewis Group had it under control, and you go down there now, you would never think that that building had ever been remodeled. It looks brand new, and they came in under budget. So they are a good architectural firm, and in my opinion, very trustworthy. And that's all I want to say.
Anyone else?
And just to clarify, this is just canceling the contract
For
for
the,
the project of the Jefferson Elementary.
the new school that was, the project that was signed back in 21.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that that's what that was.
Anyone else? All right, then, I'll read this again. Move to terminate the professional services agreement dated 6/11/21 between Jefferson County School Board of Education and Lewis Group Architects by executing provisions 9.5 and 9.6 under Article 9 of said agreement. All those in favor of this motion show by raising your right hand. 7-4-0 against, motion passes. That brings us down to school commissioner input. Remember, if you talk, please turn your microphones on as well. Anybody got anything?
May I ask Mr. Arnold what effect this mental health issue will have on our school system at the present time by delaying
There is June meeting, so that is a great possibility to get that in there. Of course, after that June meeting, then I'm not sure, we'd have to special call a meeting to address it, to have a contract in place by the start. I do want to call attention that, you know, we do listen to the board. I heard Mr. Hardy speak about and ask about background checks, and on page 1-5 talks about background checks. Contractor agrees to comply with Tennessee Code Annotated 495413 as required under statute. Contractor will provide fingerprinting and criminal history record checks conducted by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, for all employees, subcontractors, personnel, and volunteers of contractor that will enter the grounds of any Jefferson County school property owned by Jefferson County School System. It goes on under B to talk about criminal background checks shall be conducted at the expense of the contractor in accordance with TCA 49513, and the contractor shall maintain background check records in accordance with applicable laws. And that also in 495-413 includes DCS background checks also.
Thank you.
Anyone else got anything?
So I'm gonna address that first. I've just got a couple of things to say. I know that the nursing does fall under a little bit more stringent background check. I know that for a fact. We've had a nurse that tried to come on board and come into the schools. Now they're done at their employment of their agency, passed it. When they pursued to come into the schools and had to have a background check, they were not cleared. So at some point, what's been able to be allowed to get employment with an agency or the school system, whatever level that was put in for them to go and have a background checked, something didn't clear. And so that tells me that there are different levels or things they look at, and I would like to see it, and that's kind of what I had said at the meeting the other night. When I said something to Mr. Bennett, he made a comment that, well, I'm sure that we're doing that, and we would hope you are. And I would like to see that level. I mean, we're talking about our kids, and our kids' safety is number one, period. To me, it goes above education, because if we're not going to keep our kids safe, we can't even educate them. And so that's my first priority when it talks about a child, let alone them entering a room, closing that door with an adult alone. Okay, so that's the level of background check I would like to see. I do want to make a comment the other night. Apparently, I had made a comment and it mentioned some principles, the word principles, and did not mean to direct and point a finger at principals as a cause or the reason why we're having a discipline problem. Apparently some had kind of taken it that way, and I do want to, personally apologize. That was not my intent. And after thinking about it, I was just trying to move up the chain. And I think as a school board, as you move up the chain of command, even when you get to Dr. Arnold, he has a chain of command above him, and that's us. And, I'm not trying to point the finger at anybody over discipline or how things are done. And if there is somebody, we need to be looking at ourselves and how we deal with policy. Of course, everybody has restraints. Everybody underneath us has restraints to the policies we make. We are under restraint of the state. So we can only make certain policy as well. But I do want to make sure that if there's any of the entity in the school district that feels called out, I did not mean to do that, and I apologize. The last thing I'd like to say is that I would highly encourage school board members to, I'm willing to work out this MOU however we need to get it done. I would suggest maybe we send things to Dr. Arnold and what we'd like to see on there or off of there. And if we do need to have a special called meeting to pursue this further, to get this done, I'm fine with that. So that we can get this thing wrapped up at the next meeting. So.
Anything else? Yes.
Yeah, I had a question, from a citizen who had asked, let's see, are there any enforcement mechanisms to make sure these counseling services adhere to protocol? Now, I'm assuming that's essentially what the MOU is supposed to help with that as well. Is there anything beyond the MOU?
The MOU is a binding legal document that would, if they choose not to follow the MOU, then that would essentially could terminate the
Okay.
contract.
Okay, and the other question is, are there any reports required from these mental health service providers to give to the school director to keep them accountable?
Well, I'm not sure what keep them accountable means.
To hold them accountable for, I guess, if there's any harm or anything like that done to a child, hypothetically.
Yeah. So they're independent contractors. No different if a HVAC person was in there working and dropped something on an employee, injuring them. We're not liable for that. The contractor would be held liable for that. So they accept liability coming in to our place of business.
Okay. So essentially, I just want to say the MOU is a great foundation to work from. I read the whole thing top to bottom. I do like how it does protect against liability, very much so. But with that said, I was not a part of the development process. So anyways, I do like, it's a good start.
Yeah. And just know on my part, normally I come to the board with a recommendation. I don't come with a blank sheet of paper. I feel like that's my job. So I produced, if you want me to come, and just sit here, and I'm happy to do that, but I feel like in my in-board policy, it is my duty to inform you, to bring you information, and to give that to you. I feel like that I did my due diligence. I got the board attorney there, and this is what we produce for you, and I feel like that it's in compliance with what needs for our district.
First of all, I'm sorry if I flew off the handle. I didn't mean to do that.
You what, sir?
I said, I'm sorry if I flew off the handle. I didn't mean to do that.
It's all right.
Okay, well, I'm
I'm
just,
married, okay?
well, yeah, we all. Anyway, first of all,
No, you're fine.
yeah, fine. Secondly, my reason for wanting to, we just got this on Monday, it's Thursday. I just really haven't had a chance to read it as much. I think there were some questions that Mr. Bennett raised that I hadn't even thought about, you know, that I would like to think about while I'm reading the MOU a little bit more. Maybe email some suggestions or concerns to Dr. Arnold. He can then get together with Mr. Bennett, talk about them, and bring something like he had at the last work session back to the new work session that has our input. I think that's a good way of doing it. I think it's great that we have a template to work from. I do. Just coming in with a blank sheet and trying to figure, I mean, I've never written an MOU. That's his job, he did it. I think it was great. So, you know, now we'll have some input in it. Now we can have a document we can discuss at the next work session and hopefully vote on at the next business session.
Our next work session, I think, is June the 2nd, correct? And the business session, I think, is June the 8th, and 6 from 8, or 2 from 8 to 6, or something like that. So, I agree with you on the time, all right? But the only time we can, as a group, come up with an MOU is during a work session, during a public meeting.
Yep.
Now, and we all agree on that. I know we could not vote on it Monday night, but I came to that meeting looking at that thing as a draft. And I know Tommy and the lawyer put it together for us. It was something for us to go by, is the way I looked at it. I read it. I couldn't quote you one word from it right now, but I did read it. And I think we need one. I agree with you. So what we need to do, I think, is change that June 2nd work session back a little bit so we can meet the time constraints. Have a meeting, work out an MOU, and get it on the agenda for the June the 8th meeting. Does that make sense? We need time, we gotta follow the rules. And again, if we work it out at the June 2nd meeting, we have to do that during a work session, okay? June the 2nd is not gonna meet our policy. So if we could, I'm just thinking here, is move our work session back to fit that time constraint that we have to meet. We come together, and we're not voting, okay? If you'd like to change something in that, then we can talk about it. And then come up with an MOU that when it's on the agenda, we can go ahead and vote. So that was on the agenda tonight. I assumed there was no problems with it. And I was ready to vote for it, because I thought everybody was savvy with it, but apparently not. So that's my suggestion, is have a work session far enough back so that we can vote on it June the 8th. And bring you a pillow and a blanket.
As far as a document, so we put an agenda together, and then we put information in there for the board. So that doesn't mean that there'll be an MOU in your work session packet in June. That doesn't mean that we can't make changes, bring a new document, hand carry. We hand carry budget amendments all the time. So we hand carry a document to a meeting and be able to make those adjustments. The thing is, you don't want to do anything that, you don't want to add an agenda item that is not given the public time to. But changing a document, adding certain language doesn't change the agenda item and go outside of having public meetings. But, you know, I just want you to know that we're willing to do that on a, you know, fly by the seat of our pants basis as we need to.
Dr. Allen, could I suggest, being that May is kind of a crazy month, especially if we get further into the graduations and everything, I think the most important thing is that you're available for it, and I don't know what nights you are available because there's so much going on. Could you maybe email us some suggested dates, and then we can get back to you on which of those dates, you know, would work for us? I mean, I'm pretty open, but you're the one who's got the constraints, I think, so if you can let us know what dates you would suggest, then we can all respond to that.
Sure, just for individual type meetings? So,
Either that or like Coach Bradley said, you have to work to reset a work session maybe earlier.
Instead of having a work session on the 2nd of June, have it like the last week of May. Is that what you're saying?
You know, whenever Dr. Arnold's available.
Right.
I'm pretty much available, other than the high school graduation night, and I'm sure he's not available that night either. So, but I mean, it's fine with me if we keep the work session to where it's at. That's fine with me too. It's just that if we're going to set a new one, I think we have to be more concerned with Dr. Arnold's schedule, because he's the one who's really busy.
I'll be happy to send out some, you know, individual meetings, or you can email me. I know that I've reached out to a couple of board members and started a chain with Mr. Bennett in case, you know, you want to talk to him. But if you meet June the 2nd, you make any modifications, then we could hand carry a document.
Yep.
So if I meet with Bill and Dawn and Doug over the next 2 weeks, make some modifications, I could put that in the packet for the 2nd, and then if more modifications are made the 2nd, we can hand carry a document for consideration on the 5th.
That's kind of what I had in mind.
All right.
I don't like that idea of somebody getting you individually and getting to work on an MOU by themselves. I think this group needs to be together when we work on an MOU. Not with him individually, and you say, well, I want this under heading 9, whatever, and you add it.
Right.
Okay, I had no input on that. I didn't get to speak up, and I don't see it until June the 8th, and I don't have time to express my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, no, you would see it at the work session on June 2nd. You would see it at the work session on June 2nd.
Well,
And then
what he was talking about was meeting with some of y'all individually.
And getting some ideas together and bringing that to the work session on the 2nd, where we can all talk about it.
I don't think we've got enough time. It doesn't meet the time frame, does it?
Yes, it does meet the time frame because you will have the MOU 5 days prior to the work session or so. So then you would have the work session and everybody would have an input then.
I understand. I still believe we should do work on this as a group. That's what we are, as a group. And no individual meetings on this. And you can, on the 2nd, we can work out an MOU. And if it meets the time constraint, at the end of that meeting, you'll have something that Rhonda can type up and bring to the meeting on June the 8th. And we all, you know, if Bill says something he wants on there, and I'm debating, I can say, I don't agree with that. I want to be able to speak my piece. But like you said, we can't vote on it, but we want to work it out somehow. And I still think we ought to do it with as a group.
Yes. I don't like the idea of just 2 or 3 meetings, Dr. Arnold. We're a school board. I've been on the school board 20 years.
Okay.
We've always had our differences,
Well, it won't work.
but we've never had 2 or 3 years that tells you exactly what you want, how they want it, and we have to follow that procedure. I think we need to work it all out together, not as an individual.
second, okay.
June the second would be the work
So if
session.
we were to have
So when
something,
do we meet? The sixth? No,
if we were to,
fifth?
if we were to have our normal work session, I think it's June 2nd, and make our changes, is what you're saying is then we can say, okay, we're all fine with this, if we can get this worked up, and then 3 days later, I think it's the 5th, you'd be able to present it to us to vote on?
We would hand carry a document to the meeting.
Let me interrupt. I was 50% right on the day, it's June the second,
Yeah.
is a Monday, but our meeting is June the fifth.
Yeah.
So there's not enough time at that time. I was still thinking June the eighth, but thank you, Danny.
Enough time for what?
Well, to let the public know that we have it, let them know it's like 7 days in advance. That we're,
It would be an agenda item.
I understand.
So it doesn't
that,
have to
but
be the
agenda will
exact
go out
document.
a week before.
Right,
We try to get it out to the public 7 days before.
right.
So the MOU that we work out on the second, the public will not get a 7-day advance time to look at it.
Right, so that's not a requirement. We do that all the time with budget amendments and,
This is a big deal.
right,
And I understand.
yeah.
Budget amendments, they pop up, I understand that, right? But this MOU is a big deal. We're working with something that the public is really involved in, maybe more so than the remodeling of Jeff Elementary School, because this is a county-wide situation. So we need to get it right and save ourselves some headaches. If you want to do it the second, type it up and bring it to the meeting on, not the 8th,
And that,
but the 5th. I know June the 2nd on Monday. That's fine. I'm just, maybe being too picky, I don't know. But it is a big deal, is the only thing. So that's the last time I saw this.
so I would be, you know, I don't want anybody to feel like we're trying to run something by them. I kind of agree with Coach on this is, you know, I would hate somebody to say, hey, we don't have time to look at this, or, I mean, not that the public really has any say in changing anything, but I used to be on the other side too, and I enjoy being able to see something and knowing what I was gonna walk into. I would be okay if we changed it, I know end of May, especially Memorial Day weekend being that week before. It may be hard, but maybe we keep the work session the same, we just move the business agenda forward to the following Monday or something. You know, I'm okay to work with a different date, you know. Doesn't matter to me.
I agree with what it's said, we've said it here tonight, we didn't get the document ourselves soon enough to do anything. And now we're going to, push it through, and the public, I'm really, this, is a big deal. It's a very controversial deal. And if you remember, I remember, this in 2022, I remember that meeting. I believe it's Allied Behavior was in 2022, because I just become chairman, and that was,
I remember last year.
we had two meetings, one about the graduation tassel and one about,
Yeah, it was 22, you're right.
and I remember that meeting. And if you remember, this place was packed.
Couldn't get nobody else in it.
And what I don't want to do, what I don't want to happen is an excuse. Well, we didn't get this in time. Right? That's the only thing. I'm not trying to be difficult here. I'm just trying to save us some heartache and get public support in whatever we do. They've had notice, but that is.
And I agree with you, I don't want it to look like we're trying to slide anything.
No.
You know, I would like to,
You know, if you want to make a change,
All right, so
I think we worked something out. I don't think there's any major changes to that document.
we're gonna try to figure out whether, after this evening, we'll figure out if we can maybe as the suggestion, maybe instead of moving that work session back, move the business session to the next week or something like that.
That'd probably be better, yeah.
So, we'll try to get that worked out, and then we'll let everybody know on that, so,
Well, the work session's gonna stay on June the second.
yeah, I think, I don't think nobody's gonna, people may be out of town during that last
Or
week.
weekend.
Yeah. All right, anything else? Well, I'll end by saying this, I believe next week is Teacher Appreciation Week, so happy early Teacher Appreciation Week to everybody. We know the teachers work hard, and put a lot into it, and we appreciate everything they do for the county, so anything else? All right.
And nurse appreciation.
Yeah, Nurse Appreciation Week. I think there's somewhere administrator for week. There's all sorts. So anyway, all right. Is there a move to adjourn?
So moved.
Danny
Second.
moved. All second. All's in favor?